What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Media Buying War Room. I'm Mateo with MediaBuyer.com, and this is a weekly live session where we have pre-vetted, proven top 1% media buyers share what's actually working right now. Quick update on the format. The first portion of this call is going to be public. We've got essentially a stacked panel today breaking down a big question. Then after about 20-30 minutes, we'll cut the stream. We'll go to private Q&A exclusively for Catalyst members. And if you want any of these verified media buyers to actually go through your ad account for free, stick around and I'll share a little bit more about how to get that at the end of the session. Today we've got Ogie, Simon, Charlie, Camila, Antonio, and Phil with me. Between them, they have over 600 million in ad spend across Facebook, Google, TikTok, and over 1.5 billion in tracked revenue generated. So this is a stacked panel, to say the least. And these are also not traditional like celebrities or gurus. These are operators in the trenches here. And today we have a pretty big question. So we'll go around the room, give everyone a few minutes. What's the biggest lever that is not inside the ads manager? What's the biggest lever that you can pull that's not inside the ads manager, whether it's creative, CRO, anything? We'll give you guys each a few minutes, and any takers that want to go first? Antonio, Ogie.
I mean, honestly, the biggest one that people are not talking about yet is the ad account itself, right? So actually, I've been testing a lot of ad accounts, especially with my affiliates, my supplements companies. It is making a huge difference. Every 3 to 4 ad accounts I test, I found a new winning ad accounts. And I know a lot of people get scared because it sounds like something bad, but you can use the same business. Like there's nothing wrong with that in the terms of services or Facebook or any of that. That's specifically Facebook, by the way. And it makes a massive difference, right? It makes a massive difference. Sometimes I just do it. I just test it as another variable that I test, right? So I have, let's say, 2 or 3 winning ads. I'm just going to have the winning ads with a winning structure in just new ad accounts. And that's how I test it. And then obviously the biggest question that people have when I say this is, okay, but what about cannibalization? Because for most scales, it makes no difference. For most media buying strategies, even at high scale, it's not going to make as much difference because you should be doing a very high creative volume anyway to go over 10K a day, 100K a day and beyond. Just with a couple of campaigns, the algo is not going to have enough spend regardless to test all your ads. So just making sure the accounts are in parallel can actually skyrocket your results with something very, very simple that people don't realize. Every ad account has its own performance, its own quality score, its own score in general. And so as stupid as it is, even if you don't change the page, don't change the pixel, don't change anything, this alone can actually be huge for you if you're thinking about media buying.
Super interesting. I'll jump in next. In terms of, for me, I think this is a great question. And it's a great debate that I often have with clients. I think clients generally come to you and they ask you to make media buying work. And the question that I often put back to them is their business in a position that's ready to scale and ramp? And I would say the first point of protocol that comes down to is if you're an e-commerce business, do you have a competitive product that there's already interest in? And especially from a Google Ads standpoint, a lot of our demand is driven from people searching on Google and looking for the specific products that you sell. So demand is obviously vitally important, but therefore your ability to capture that demand is the second most important component, which heavily is impacted by your ability to be price competitive. So in a lot of categories that we operate in, there is not a lot of, I would say, brand dominance in the auction. So people are not super loyal to a brand specifically, but they're essentially looking for value for money, for high quality products from trusted providers who have credible reviews. And we see it time and time again. If a brand is priced even 10 to 15% above close competitors who have a comparative offer, we will see a major drop off in performance from the media buying side because they are just not price competitive. And it's almost impossible, in my opinion, to out media buy an overpriced product in a very competitive market. The second point that I would go to kind of add in addition to that is when you do have a strong product offering, when you are competitively priced and you're trying to ramp and scale and find that incremental growth, again, very often it's not in the media buying tactics, it's in your ability to convert traffic on the landing page itself. So looking at really getting into CRO tactics and specifically focusing a lot on what are the kind of psychological, social proof, trust signals that will instill confidence in a consumer that they're willing to buy from you without any hesitation. And, simple things in terms of having, a large volume of high quality Trustpilot reviews, which are third party verified, having real life consumer videos of people who've purchased your product and seeing it in their home. And again, just having very clear and easy to purchase process in terms of add to cart, checkout, pre-filled, cart details, all of these simple tactics. but they make a really, really big difference. So I would say we definitely spend a lot of our time advising clients around pricing strategies on a category by category basis, analyzing competitors in the market and seeing where they're priced versus them, and then really getting into the nitty gritty when it comes to the actual product landing pages where we send a lot of our traffic to, and trying to just eke out any incremental improvements in conversion rate, because 20-30% uplift in conversion rate has a really fundamental positive impact on ROAS in platform. Once we improve ROAS in platform, we can ramp and scale budgets very effectively.
Love it. So much gold drop there. Camila?
So I think one of the things that people don't think about once they're kind of on the more mature part of their products is like bundling. A lot of times, like, if there's a way that you can add on more products, upsell, bundling, all that stuff to get people to buy more, then that obviously that revenue is going to increase. And, people don't think about, oh, I have a bestseller, but like, there's other stuff that you can add on to help bundle that. So I've seen like, when there's a chance to bundle, obviously it depends on the product, but if there's a chance to bundle, seasonal drops, anything that can help to get more people to come back and buy, I think that's also another thing that can help uplift the ROAS and revenues and whatnot. And, it works a lot in terms of especially seasonal drops, right? Because people are excited about new products and stuff and they want to buy, especially returning customers. And I think that's a big factor in terms of scaling without, having to do anything in the ad account platform.
Charlie, fire away.
I think about here somewhat bakes into what Ogie said, but it's thinking about the unit economics of the product. So I think these days there are two major differences versus a few years ago. One is ad costs are rising. So I think the ideal AOV of a product to allow for kind of scalable growth has therefore gone up a little bit just to get above those typical ad costs you see. The second one is kind of VC funding, that sort of thing is harder. And I think businesses are trying to build more like sustainable practice. So they're ideally looking for cash flow positive new customer growth. No longer can you rely on sort of long-term LTVs, because you just can't guarantee that you're ever going to sort of catch up and get out of it. So trying to get to a point where you have very good gross margins, ideally sort of 65, 70% plus, trying to get over a sort of $60 AOV, ideally closer to $100, and get yourself in a position where if you're hitting somewhere around a 2 new customer ROAS, that you can allow for sort of aggressive scale. Because I just think there's a reality of what you have to pay these days to acquire those customers. And if you haven't got the unit economics to cope with modern costs and expectations, then yeah, you just can't experience that kind of rapid growth because it's not in a cash flow positive way. And that's fine. You just might have to accept a slightly slower form of growth and a more of a sort of wider ecosystem to help get you there.
Super fundamental. Simon?
We're going very, very similar to Ogie and Charlie, to be honest. Like really the core thing outside the ad platform, economics, and then also the offer. Think about the role of ads. Really, they're an amplification of what's happening in your business. They can amplify the good things, but they can also amplify the bad things. So if you don't have your unit economics sorted out, etc., then that amplification process really does identify some of the things you probably don't want identified in your business. But like focusing particularly on the offer, when brands have trouble scaling, and that generally relates to an offer issue and potentially there's a market fit issue, not necessarily with the product as a whole or the service as a whole, maybe just the offer that customers are seeing on page. Definitely like to do some work with brands around offer clarity as well. I think some brands, they know their product and their service so well, but the way that they explain that to new people, whether through ads or on page, can sometimes be a little bit confusing if they're coming at it from their own founder perspective as opposed to an outsider. So definitely like to do work around that clarity piece. That and things like risk reversal, offering money back guarantees, etc., can help take some of that risk away for new customers. And then also that speed to value piece as well. I think customers that are new into a brand want to know how long it's going to take for them to get the outcome which they're purchasing. Skincare brand, how long until it disappears, etc. And so being very clear around those elements within an offer is super important. The whole process is a value exchange from brand to customer, and everybody needs to feel like they've had a fair value exchange through the process. So that, making sure that is all watertight is generally kind of the biggest lever that I find outside of an ad account.
It's already interesting to see or notice some of the patterns between the different perspectives so far here. Last but not least, Phil, but quick reminder while we're rolling here, if you're getting value from this, share the stream. It helps a lot. We do this weekly call with multiple verified media buyers from our network. And if you want any of these people to actually take a look at your ad account, I'll drop the secret link for that at the end of this stream here. With that said, Phil, take it away.
Yeah, I'm going to be a broken clock here. say the same thing. I think it comes down to the offer. But if you look at like the root issue, like a lot of people think that the ads are the problem. But then if you break that down deeper, the conversion rate's a problem. But then if you really boil it down to the essence, and you work back from the funnel, the offer is a root issue. How much you're willing to spend, what kind of funnels you can run, how much you're willing to lose on a payback period. Like the brands that are winning the best, I mean, someone mentioned VC funding. They understand LTV. They're playing on a long-term game, and they're willing to play in an offer that has a 6-month payback period. But a lot of bootstrap companies and Shopify need immediate profitability on first purchase. So I think a lot of people struggle with the offer, but the offer unlocks scale for the media buyer. The creative is more clear on who it can go after. The conversion rate can actually improve because it can be funneled for the offer individually. And it also goes for like the front end offer and the back end offer. Yeah, I mean, the offer I think is the highest leverage across the entire business fundamentally, and people neglect it a lot.
Super important. All right, that's the public portion. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Again, if you got value from this, share the stream, MediaBuyer.com/warroom. We go live every week. And if you're spending at least $10,000 a month on ads like Facebook, Google, TikTok, YouTube, and you want one of these verified media buyers to actually take a look at your accounts, full funnel, and tell you what's broken, we do offer free scaling audits. It's a 30-minute, no BS, no sales call type of pitch, just from real operators who are in the trenches. If you want the link for that, it is MediaBuyer.com/audit. And before we end here, I want to go around the room. Anything that we want to add or any thoughts that you had from something that someone else said before we call it here?
I would be curious, Antonio, just to hear a little bit more about the additional ad account approach and how granular you get with that. As in, you said it was within the same business manager. Do you use a new pixel, different like Facebook, Instagram pages?
Yeah, I just treat it as a new variable, right? So if I'm just literally split testing the ad account, I'm not changing anything else in the beginning. So let's say I've had like 2-3 winning ads with using one page, one pixel, everything the same. I'm literally just duplicating those campaigns in the other ad account because I want to be able to compare apples to apples. So I A/B test, literally like pure A/B test, just changing one variable, and that variable is the ad account. All right, so that's what I do in the beginning. Then eventually, sure, like the big affiliate operations I see nowadays, they have multiple business managers, but they have other problems as well because sometimes they run like too aggressive ads and all the fun stuff. So maybe that's why they do it. But I think even for most businesses watching us and people who have clients and all the fun stuff, just having different ad accounts being tested in the same business manager with the exact same pixel and page, just to make it super, super easy. I just think it's high leverage because even though honestly it's not as important, obviously, as your business operations, your sales, your offer, and all these things you guys mentioned, it's just so ridiculously easy to test versus all these things. So it's just a matrix of what's easy to test and what's the highest leverage. This is super, super easy to test. So even though it's not going to completely change your business, if you can get like an extra like 10 to 20% margins overnight just by testing a different ad account with exactly the same thing you're doing, that's why I think is a really good like leverage point in this kind of matrix of being super easy to test. You know what I mean? But in the beginning, I don't switch anything. Eventually, all of these things, I test them, right? So even for an e-commerce brand, I remember I'm not running as much e-com right now, but I think it was in November, I believe, where I was just a consultant for them. And I just told them, this person, which I think was the founder of the brand, is not the best spokesperson of the brand. So he's the only person to UGCs and is the face of the statics. But if you just have a doctor there, it would be much better. So they started hiring doctors and making statics. And it was much better because it was just such a much more credible spokesperson for the brand than just the random founder that had this dream, literally. Like, Lee's didn't care about it, but they did care about a doctor saying, hey, you need this. So obviously it was in the health space. But yeah, it just made a lot more sense. So that's why I think having the page that had a doctor in that case would be great. Having obviously a new pixel for a specific tranche of the market can be great as well. But this is down the line. Super easy, high leverage, just testing ad account with exactly the same winners that you already have.
Nice, I like it. Thanks, Antonio.
Yeah, I was just going to jump back in, Matteo, in relation to, I guess, a quick takeaway for anyone who's watching this in terms of how to, I guess, take some advice that we're mentioning in terms of the CRO side and try and action it very, very quickly. And just a very simple 3-step process with Claude to essentially audit and get a recommendation for CRO tactics on a landing page. First step is to ask Claude to build the prompt as a CRO expert in whatever vertical or industry that you're in. Second part is to paste that prompt back into a new Claude thread with your landing page URL and ideally a full screenshot of the same landing page. Ask it essentially to run the prompt on that page and then get it to give you the 3 highest leverage CRO A/B test tactics tactics that you should test on that specific landing page. And the final step is to ask it to actually mock those up on HTML, and it will give you a visual representation on your landing page of what they would look like. You can then send that to a developer to get built very, very quick and easily to test the 3 highest leverage A/B tests for your business. Value in under 5 minutes.
Love that. I'm sure we could talk 12 hours about like agents and prompts, and actually that might be some foreshadowing for one of the next calls here that we could do, or different like prompt AI use cases and things like that. Awesome. Appreciate the share there, Ogi. All right, we're cutting the stream now. Catalyst members, stay on. We're going into Q&A mode here. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you in the next one.